Hey gang, and welcome to our first day's notes for Unit 5, Similar Figures. Similar figures are objects that have the same shape, but not necessarily the same size. And the symbol that we use for similarity is this squiggly guy here. So an example of a similarity statement would be ABCD is similar to shape GHIJ. And in order to check if polygons are going to be similar, you need to see if the corresponding angles are congruent, or the same size, and if corresponding sides are proportional. We'll talk about what that means here in just a minute. Just keep in mind that you have to match up the corresponding parts. So for similar polygons, the two short sides match up, and then the two long sides would match up. Let's try one out. This is going to remind you a lot of what we did with congruent shapes. So I'm given this similarity statement, and I need to tell either from this or from the picture which angles go together. So like A is the first letter in this statement, G is the first letter in the second shape, so A would have to be congruent to G. And when we go over and look at our picture, they both have the same number of markings. They both have this right angle box. So like H would go with B, D would go with angle J and be congruent, and then I would go with angle C and be congruent. So that's step one, is check and make sure that all the matching angles are congruent to each other. Step two is seeing if the relationship between matching sides is the same, or if the fractions that you set up with the matching sides give you the same value. So like AB goes with GH. When I divide the lengths of those two sides, I should get the same thing as if I did BC divided by HI. And I should get the same thing as if I did, let's see, CD goes with IJ, and then AD goes with GJ. So why don't you go ahead and try these guys down here. Step one at least. So pause and see if you can fill in what the matching angles are. Alright, so you probably got what the matching angles or congruent angles are, but now we want to check up and see if the sides are proportional. So AB, for instance, is 6 units long. XY, the matching part on the other shape, is 3 units long. And when I simplify that fraction, I get 2. Now I'm just going to check and make sure that I get that exact same answer when I compare the other matching sides. So BC is 8, that goes with YZ, which is 4. And guess what? 8 divided by 4 also gives me 2. CD is 9. The matching side over here is ZW, which is 4.5. And when I divide those two, I get 2. AD is 4. XW is 2. When I divide those two, I get 2. So when I checked all the matching sides and put them in a fraction, I got the same number. That's what proportional means. So I do have two congruent shapes. I've got A, B, C, D, similar to X, Y, Z, W. So those two are similar. They're not the same size, but they are the same shape. Why don't you try out number 2, see how you do. Alrighty, so for number 2, we've got ABC goes with X, Y, and Z based on these little markings. When I go to compare the sides, keep in mind that the short side on this shape should go with the short side on the other shape. So 20 and 14 would be corresponding. And then when I set up all these fractions and actually type them into my calculator and divide them out, I get the same number, 1.42 for each, meaning I do have proportional sides. So these two are similar, and here's the similarity statement that I wrote. And a lot of times that number is going to come up in the questions that we ask. The similarity ratio, or the scale factor, that number like 2 or like 1.42, that's going to be the ratio of the lengths of our corresponding or our matching sides of similar figures. So like on these two questions, we're supposed to figure out if the shapes are similar or not. And when I look at the angles, I see they all match up, so that's good. Angles are good. Now I've got to see if the sides are going to be proportional. You can use your calculator to do this. So like I would say, okay, here's the short side 4, here's the short side 8. When I do the division, 8 divided by 4, I got 2, okay. When I do 12.2 divided by 6.1, 12.2 divided by 6.1, I get 2. Cool, those have the same relationship. When I do 16 divided by 8, I'll get 2. So these are similar, and the similarity statement would be A, B, D, C, similar to H, E, F, G. The scale factor, that number I got when I was dividing all the all the proportional sides, that would be 2. So when you try it over here on number 3, I'll let you pause and do that. Okay, after you've unpaused, let's look at what we should find. This guy is not going to be similar because when you look at sides that match up, 20 divided by 30, you get 2/3 or 0.666, blah, 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 blah. But when you do 32 divided by 40, you get 0.8. So not the same number. That means those aren't proportional. We don't have similar shapes. Another type of problem you might encounter is when you are asked to find a missing side. So like I know those two shapes are similar because of the directions, so I'm going to have to figure out by setting up a proportion and find out how big that x value is. What we'll have to do is think about, okay, 4 and 2, those go together, and they have a relationship, 4 and 2. That should be the same relationship as 7 and x. 7 and x. You might remember from pre-algebra or from Algebra 1 how we solve a problem like this, and that would be cross-multiplying. So like I'm going to do 4 times x equal to 2 times 7, which is 14. Cross-multiply. Then I'll divide by 4 on both sides and get that x is 3.5. So setting up a proportion and cross-multiplying are the ways that we'll find some of our missing pieces. The scale factor, on the other hand, the other thing they're asking for, is just asking for the number or the relationship between the sides. So like we know that one side is 4, side R, T. So when I look at side U, W, pop, pop, I'm going to divide out that fraction, see what I get. That'll be my scale factor. So I'm going to try one more here with you and then leave you to try number 2. So I've got that A, B, C, D is similar to NMPO. So let's see. Based on this, I would know that A, B, and NM go together. So those two. I'm going to use those numbers to figure out my scale factor. 4 divided by 2.4. I'll need my calculator for that. 4 divided by 2.4. Yeah. Okay, 1.66667, which is 1 2/3. So that'll be my scale factor. Next step is figuring out what x is. So I'm going to have to pick some sides. Let's see, x goes with 6. X goes with 6. Since I picked x to be on top, I'll have to pick a number from the same shape, like 2.4, to be on top, and then the one that goes with it. Cross multiply, so 4x equals 2.4 times 6, yeah, 14.4, and then I'll divide both sides by 4, 3.6. Cool. So again, you tried 2, and then maybe come in with some questions. We'll clear those up in class.